Good morning. Let's take a look at the quadratic formula and how you can use it step by step to find the answer to any quadratic equation. Remember that the formula states x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And when you use it, like we do with any formula, the first step you will do is you will write out the formula using empty parentheses for the variables whose values you will use. Identify those values. In our case with quadratics, it's a equals b equals and c equals. So let's look at an example. Let's take the equation x squared minus 4x plus 3 equals 0. In this case, our a is 1, our b is negative 4, our c is 3. You see that I do have the formula written where I can see it. It's a good idea to have it either on the top of the worksheet you're working on or in your notes so that you can refer to it. Then write out the empty parentheses. I know some of you guys fight me on this, but it's really helpful if you do this as you're working through it. Write out the x equals the opposite of, we know that's going to be your b, plus or minus the square root of what our b will be squared minus 4 times a times c divided by, notice I stopped my fraction bar right at the equal sign. Don't go under the equal sign, and don't forget to include the opposite of b phrase there. And then 2 times your a value in the denominator. So let's put our example in its place and see how that works. In this case, our a is 1, our b is negative 4, and our c is 3. And I forgot to write them, so I'm going to go ahead and throw those in right now. The a is 1, the b is negative 4, and the c is 3. Replacing in the parentheses the negative 4, keep the sign there, for the b, the 1 for the a, and the c is 3. Then the next step, and this is an important one, make sure that you simplify correctly from left to right. The opposite of negative 4 is positive 4. We keep our plus minus here because we're both going to add and subtract the result. Simplify under the radical next because that's a grouping symbol, just like parentheses. So I went ahead and I squared my negative 4. When you square a number, you always get a positive product. So negative 4 squared is positive 16. Get the sign of the next term. So a negative 4 times a positive 1 times a positive 3 is going to be subtraction, or negative. 4 times 1 times 3 is 12. And then continue simplifying that. 16 minus 12 is 4. Keep that under a radical. It's under the radical, it stays under the radical. Bring everything else down every time. You have a complete true statement each and every time. Then the next step is that you're going to take that square root. The square root of 4 is 2. Everything else comes down. At this point, all we've done is simplified. Now we need to start to solve. So we're going to begin our solving by splitting that expression x plus or minus 4 into its two components. So on the left-hand side, you see I took and I have, again, keep the x equals, that's part of it. X equals 4 plus 2 divided by 2, which then I simplify the numerator. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And on the second side, I do the subtraction. 4 minus 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And of course, we all know the last step every time is to check in the original equation. So I have two solutions. I have two separate checks. On the first side, I went ahead and left the blank parentheses there just to remind you that you should write the empty parenthesis first and then fill in your numbers. You don't have to do it as a separate step. You can see here I just filled it in after I wrote it, but you couldn't see me write it first, so I left it like that. And when you work your check down so that your left side is fully simplified, I'm not solving, I'm just doing order of operations, bringing it to a single number. When the single number on the left matches the single number on the right, you know that you have completed your check. There are your two solutions to the quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. Now you try.